All right, sharp. Now, we cannot put the blame only on these network service providers about this thing, right? The biggest person who actually contributed to our data being expensive is ICASA. So, ICASA, they are the regulators of these network service providers. One, the first thing, especially in 2018, they went to court. I was there also. They went to court. They introduced a system called end user service provider, something something. I still remember. End user and subscriber service charter regulation. Meaning they'll say part of their proposal is that if you have enough data that can carry over to the next month, then the law states by law a network service provider can take that data which left, add it to the next month. But they didn't prove themselves enough at court because I mean it's Vodacom, it's Icasa, they've got tender lawyers, and then it's us on this side. You know, we've got big pockets and we get the best lawyers in the country. Now, tender lawyers failed Icasa, so meaning Icasa also failed to actually prove and to say to enforce this end user service provider regulator to say data must carry over. Now, part of that is to for a network service provider MTN to actually notify you of the actual usage which is left. To roll over, and three, transfer unused data, which is supposed to be cool, and we enjoy that. And then it's supposed to actually help us. Now, part of another issue is that there are called spectrum licenses, which ICASA actually gives out to people and people apply. Now, in a year, I think they issued two or three. The application of this ECN license is 52,000. Now, eventually, ICASA, you know what, instead of doing it, why don't you do it a auction? Now, having an spectrum license auction is a problem because of big players with big pockets are already there, are already been there. They go there to an auction with big pockets. Rena mo man carrot like our 6,000, 100,000. We don't qualify. Now, when we get there, obviously, I mean, there are big giants with big pockets. People who got budget here 15 million, 30 million. Rena got 200,000, hoping we will make it. But for the sake of fun of it, we just raised our hand, just, and then the big players actually pulled out their big pockets. Now, in ECI license started from being sold car 52,000, eventually went up to 10 million, and ECI license. Now, eventually, ICASA says these things must be in auction. Now, in auction, only big players give one hour the licenses. Now, automatically, it limits network spectrum frequencies, because a network must be in a frequency to connect to two network towers must be connected to each other through a network frequency. Now, the more one company with big pockets buying all the spectrum licenses, buying all the frequencies, the less the chance for small players and people like MTN and Vodacom to actually own. Because in other areas, these big players own all frequencies. Now, MTN and Vodacom don't have frequencies in that area. They end up going to these guys and say, guys, we don't have frequencies in this area. Can you please host us? And this guy says, sure. Muni wari come. You know who owns. Come on, come. And then they connect. Now, once MTN and Vodacom Celsi connect us on that. Now there is signal in that area, but signal which is rented and hosted by private individuals. Now that's the problem, because of now these guys say, our MTN, we've been hosting you guys for long now. You guys, we need to increase. You can't actually host you 100,000 for one tower. Now it's gonna be 250,000 for one tower. Now one tower can actually host about 1,000,000 people. 1,000,000 people needs, based on the business plan, one tower needs to bring in about 700,000 rands a month, based on limitation of people hosted in that one tower. I'm talking about one tower. That's the profit margin, that's the profit structure of how these guys need to make money. Now, eventually, remember, these guys are trapped in a contract of CDN licenses, are trapped in a contract of internet piping, are trapped in, now the new trap in is the frequencies. They do not have frequencies in other areas, and they end up renting frequencies to players, and the players becoming big players. Now, that's the problem of why these guys cannot solve their issue of bringing data down, because of one, regulation didn't allow them. Two, big players end up owning all the frequencies. That became a problem. That's why our wish for internet to be cheap, only an international player coming from outside and say, I don't want to use your network infrastructure, I'll have mine. That's the only person. It's unfortunately the only person who has that structure is no longer answering my WhatsApp.